Welcome to the Alberta College of Medical, Diagnostic and Therapeutic Technologists Continuing Competence Program overview. This video will explain the requirements of the college's Continuing Competence Program, or CCP, and go into detail about the three components of a reflective practice review: the self-assessment, the learning plan, and the reflective learning activities. There will also be a step-by-step instructions on how to complete all three components in the My CCP platform. The CCP supports MRTs and EMPs in achieving and demonstrating the professional responsibility to maintain and enhance their knowledge, skills, and competence. The college established the CCP as required by the Health Professions Act, or HPA. The HPA states that a council must establish a continuing competence program that must provide for regulated members to maintain competence and to enhance the provisions of professional services. The HPA also allows for the establishment of a competence committee. The Competence Committee is a group of regulated college members who have volunteered to oversee the CCP and members' compliance with it. More details about the requirements of the CCP can be found in the Medical, Diagnostic and Therapeutic Technologists Profession Regulation, or the regulation as we call it. As per the regulation, in order for a regulated member to renew their practice permit, they must have to meet the requirements of the CCP. The regulation also states that regulated members must complete in each registration year a reflective practice review. Details of what a reflective practice review must include are also mandated. A reflective practice review must be composed of a personal assessment, the development and implementation of a learning plan, and a written evaluation of the member's learning. In each year that a regulated member holds general registration, the member will need to participate in the CCP. The CCP cycle begins on September of one year and continues through to August 31st of the next. All components of the CCP must be completed within this time frame. The college conducts two types of audits every year to ensure members are complying with the CCP. The first type of audit is the CCP audit. In this audit, members are requested to submit their reflective practice review to the Competence Committee for assessment of their compliance. The college may select up to 20% of the general membership for evaluation of the reflective practice review. The audit is done by random selection. However, the Competence Committee or registrar may specifically select a regulated member for an audit. The second type of audit is the CCP Analytics Verification. Through this verification, the college is able to see if and when a member has entered data into each of the three components. During this process, the college is not able to see any details of the member's CCP, and so it remains confidential. Every regulated member is subject to the CCP analytic review every year. The components of the CCP are collectively referred to as a reflective practice review. First, a member completes the self-assessment, which allows them to identify possible areas of practice in which they would like to pursue additional learning. This leads to the personal learning plan, where they will formally identify, through writing a learning objective, what they would like to learn about in the upcoming CCP cycle. Ideally, these two components would be completed at the beginning of the cycle. Although it's recognized that practice situations may change throughout the year, setting up the self-assessment and learning plan early helps a member set the goal for their learning activities, which are the final component of a reflective practice review. During the annual registration renew process, regulated members need to declare that they have completed their CCP in order to have their renewal approved. A member who holds general registration for a full CCP cycle is required to complete a minimum of 24 hours of learning within the cycle. If you have not been registered for a full CCP cycle, you are responsible for completing 2 hours of learning for each month in which you hold general registration. As per the regulation, you must retain your documents for a minimum of 5 years, as they may be requested by the Competence Committee. The My CCP platform already retains documents beyond this requirement. Now I'll go over how to complete your CCP in the My CCP platform. This is the login page, which you can access from your My CCP button on the footer of the college website. The username will be your ACMDTT registration number. The college provides you with an initial password, which is your last name. We recommend changing your password after your initial login to keep your account secure. The home page provides you with details about the CCP, with explanations of the 3 required components and information on the CCP cycle. The first component you will need to complete is the self-assessment. The self-assessment is based on the college's standards of practice and is designed to assist you to personally reflect on your practice strengths and identify potential areas for continued or new learning. In this component, you need to select the rating statement that most accurately describes your current abilities and circumstances. To begin, click the Launch Self-Assessment button. The self-assessment consists of 7 different tabs. There is 1 tab for each of the 5 different standard areas, a practice profile, and a summary of the information that gets recorded in this section. The first tab of the self-assessment is your practice profile. Here, you are going to enter information about your own practice. First, you will select your primary specialty. If you have a secondary specialty, for example, if you are an MRI technologist, but also work as a radiological technologist, you would choose it here. Next, choose the practice type and facility practice that best describes your current employment information. Finally, select up to 3 main areas of your practice. For example, if you are an ENP and are also trained in electromyography, you would highlight this in this field. When you have completed all fields, remember to click the Save button. On each standard tab, you will need to self-assess against each of the indicators listed in that standard area. For each indicator listed, choose whether you do or do not perform or support others in the performance of this indicator in your practice. You will also select whether you would like to enhance your knowledge of this indicator. You are required to identify at least 2 indicators where you would like to enhance your knowledge, and you must choose these indicators from 2 separate standard areas. When you click the checkbox beside "I would like to enhance my knowledge of this indicator," the indicator will automatically be added to your learning plan as reference when writing your learning objectives. You must assess against all the indicators listed, even if they are not applicable to your area of practice. As you complete the self-assessment, you may begin to identify areas for potential learning activities. If you want to see all the responses you selected for the standard indicators in one place, you may view them on the Summary tab. One question we often receive at the college is, why does it show that my self-assessment is not complete? There are a few reasons why this may be the case. First, ensure you have selected an answer for every indicator in all 5 standard areas. Next, make sure you have selected a minimum of 2 indicators for which you would like to enhance your knowledge. And finally, ensure that the indicators for which you have chosen to enhance your knowledge resides in at least 2 different standard areas. Once you have completed your self-assessment, you're ready to formalize your goals for the CCP cycle in your learning plan. The learning plan portion of the Reflective Practice Review is meant to guide your learning activities for the CCP cycle by requiring you to identify areas of learning based on your self-assessment of practice. In the learning plan, you must identify at least 2 objectives that are relevant to your practice. To launch your learning plan, click the Launch Learning Plan button. Each objective consists of 3 sections: the learning objective, the standard indicator, and a possible learning activity or resource. There are 2 ways in which learning objectives may be added. The first way is through your self-assessment, which automatically adds a learning objective to your learning plan that includes the standard indicator you selected as being one for which you would like to enhance your knowledge. The second way is to manually add an objective using the New Objective button at the top of the page. Regardless of the way in which you choose your objectives, you must complete all 3 sections for each one and achieve at least one of the 2 objectives with your learning activities. The learning objective should be a specific goal that ties into the indicator you selected. For each learning objective in your learning plan, you must identify possible learning activities that will help you in meeting your learning objective. You may identify something as simple as reading a journal article or as grand as attending a conference or workshop. Remember to click the Save button if you make any changes. To view examples of how to complete a learning plan, please see the My CCP example document at acmdtt.com/CCP. If your learning plan is showing status of incomplete, ensure you have created at least 2 objectives and completed all 3 fields in each one. It is also important to note that your learning plan won't be complete until you have indicated that one of your learning activities supports one of your learning objectives. The final component of a reflective practice review is the learning activities. The type of learning activities that you undertake can vary considerably, as there is no requirement for learning activities or events to be approved by the college. You may choose to gain your learning through a formal activity, such as a course or a conference, or something quite informal, such as reading a journal article or textbooks, or attending rounds. There are some activities that the Competence Committee has deemed not to be satisfactory learning, and some that are satisfactory with time restrictions. These can be found in the CCP Information Guide, which you can access from the Resources section in the left sidebar of My CCP. When you participate in a learning activity, you must document the evidence of your participation. There are 3 different forms on which to record your learning: the single learning record, the multi-source learning record, and finally the multi-session learning record. Each of these forms is used in different situations. If you do a solitary activity, such as take a course or read an article, it would be most appropriate to use the single learning record. The multi-source learning record may be used to capture all of the research and learning done on one common topic, and the multi-session learning record is used for events like conferences. To record your learning activity, determine which record is most appropriate and select it from the drop-down list. Before I go into detail about the different forms, there is one common element, the self-reflection. Self-reflection is the basis of the reflective practice review, and this is where you explain how what you've learned has impacted your professional practice. When writing your self-reflection, answer the question, how has what I've learned affected what I do in my role as an MRT or ENP? Describe how what you've learned has impacted you in your profession. Reflect on how the personal development enhanced your practice. Describe what you learn and how it will benefit you in your practice. Or you may describe very specifically how the learning has been used for a particular patient case, protocol, or other department application. Remember to maintain patient confidentiality at all times. First, I'll show you how to complete a single learning record. To view examples of how to complete a single learning record, please see the My CCP Examples document at the acmdtt.com/CCP. To add a new single learning record, click the Add New Activity button. All the fields within the single learning record are mandatory, aside from the activity end date. Start by adding the title or event name of the learning activity. Select the start date and end date if applicable, using the calendar that pops up when you click on those fields. For the activity sponsor speaker, enter the organization or individual that provided the activity. For example, you might enter AHS for training provided through your employer, or ACMDTT for one of the college's learning modules. The type of activity field allows you to choose from a drop-down list that includes a wide variety of options, including conference seminar, structured course, lecture presentation, participating in training, and journal article review. In the overview of the activity content field, give a short description of what the activity involved. Document a general outline of the subject or situation. Next, explain how this learning has been useful to your practice, the self-reflection. Use key phrases such as, I have used this information to, and I am now able to implement best practice because. Finally, answer whether the activity supports an objective in your learning plan and enter the total CCP time in hours. Enter any time less than an hour in a decimal. For example, 15 minutes would be entered as 0.25. You may also upload evidence of your learning activities, such as a certificate of attendance, to the record using the upload link in the supporting document section. Uploading documentation is not a mandatory component of the CCP, but it is available for your convenience and record keeping. Remember to click the Save button once you have entered all the information. The next type of form is the multi-source learning record, which has been created in recognition of the fact that it's sometimes necessary to pull information from many different resources when researching a topic. This type of form should make it easier to keep track of these types of learning activities. An example may be learning about breast cancer. To do this, you may participate in a series of different learning resources, for example, rounds, journal articles, and patient education sessions to actively engage in this learning. All of these activities center on one topic and may be captured on one multi-source record. To view examples of how to complete a multi-source learning record, please see the My CCP examples document at acmdtt.com/CCP. To create a new multi-source learning record, click the Add New Activity button. As with the single learning record, all of the fields within the multi-source learning record are mandatory, aside from the activity end date. Provide the topic being researched in as much detail as possible. Follow this with a list of learning resources that have been utilized, detailing the date and time spent for each resource. At the bottom of the table, calculate the total amount of time you spent learning about this topic. In order for this record to stand on its own, you must complete a self-reflection of the learning conducted from the resources listed on this form. Relate the learning concept or content back to your professional practice and explain how it has had or will have an impact on your work activities. Don't forget to click the Save button when you are done. The last type of form is the multi-session learning event record. This form may be used when attending events such as conferences, workshops, or employee-required annual continuing education. You may itemize all of the activities done within the span of the event, record all the learning hours, and then self-reflect on only one aspect of it. To view examples of how to complete a multi-session learning event record, please see the My CCP examples document at acmdtt.com/CCP. To add a new record, click the Add New Activity button. As with the other type of learning records, all of the fields within the multi-session learning event record are mandatory, aside from the activity end date. To complete the record, start by adding the event name. Select the start date and end date, if applicable, using the calendars that pop up when you click on those fields. For the event sponsor, enter the organization or individual that hosted the event. You may also upload supporting documents if you like. For the self-reflection, choose one key piece of learning from the event and reflect on how it will be useful to your practice. Next, list the name or title of each session, along with a brief description or objective and how many hours it was. Finally, add all the hours of the event together and record that at the bottom of the form. Remember to click the Save button when you've finished. Under the Learning Activities tab, you will also find a Summary of Activities option. Here, you can track your progress in completing your CCP throughout the year. Your Summary of Activities is automatically updated as you enter completed records, and it keeps a running total of the number of hours of learning you have completed. This concludes the college's Continuing Competence Program overview. If you have any questions about the CCP or run into issues when using My CCP platform, please feel welcome to reach out to us and we will be happy to help you. Thank you.